There's a lot to process here with the government of Alberta now tabling Bill 20, which is known as the Municipal Affairs Statutes Amendments Act. And the biggest takeaway is that we still have a lot more questions than we have answers. However, I will start with the positive highlights. I'm very pleased to see that criminal record checks will be required for candidates. I'm also happy to see that the Minister of Municipal Affairs will be validating the recall petitions. That lifts the burden and cost off of municipalities. Fully exempting housing providers from all property taxes. This is a big deal. We have been doing this as a municipality for quite some time and asking the province to match this. And I'm very happy to see that they are now following our lead. Frankly, these are all things that I've been pushing for several years, and I'm glad to see that they are happening now. Now for the stuff that's a little bit more troubling. The ability for Cabinet to direct Council to amend or repeal any bylaw. Second, big money being reintroduced into municipal campaigns. There's now the ability for candidates to receive money directly from unions and corporations. And I'm interested in this notion of Cabinet being able to remove a councillor if it's in the public interest. Yet there's no definition of public interest. What does it actually mean? So are we now in a world where elections can be bought by big money and they can then be overturned by a Cabinet that doesn't like the results? So in many ways, this is a significant piece of legislation that requires thoughtful and fulsome response. However, we have little to no details on things that can stand to change the face of municipal government. The provincial government claims that this is intended to ensure that local elections are transparent, that they're fair, and they're free. But I'm left asking why they've inserted themselves into municipal government in a manner that actually strips the voting public's right to elect the council that they believe is the best to serve them. I'll take any questions.
Party politics, I know what you've said before. You're not in favor of party politics. You didn't mention it, unless I misheard in your comments there. Can you reiterate your stance on that?
What I've seen so far is an indication that there will be some regulations coming around introducing parties only in Edmonton and Calgary as a pilot. So I have no idea what that means. I guess we will wait and see.
Do you think it's getting to the point where the provincial government wants to be the municipal government?
I think it's interesting that the last few bills that we've seen tabled are probably overreach to some degree. If the people that are in provincial government right now are interested in doing the work of the municipal government, perhaps they should have run for these positions.
Have you heard if there will be an opportunity for Calgary or other municipalities to actually provide feedback that might result in some changes that make it more palatable?
I'm guessing that there will be some sort of a consultation period, although I'm not sure. So once again, I don't know.
Might go a little bit too far into the weeds, so forgive me, but we have had people run for city council with criminal records, and there's been nothing that the city can do about it. Is that something you think holds merit? And also, how about the issue of pardons? How would that be done?
That is a really good question to ask the provincial government. How would you handle the idea of pardons? I can just say that anytime we have extra eyes on a candidate's background, if there is any type of criminal activity, I think it's important. I don't know if this extends into vulnerable sector checks, which is the next level, but again, we shall see.
Mayor, the minister, he had mentioned that, for any of these changes, whether it's the bylaw amendments, whether it's the removal of a councillor, it would be whether or not it's Cabinet deems it in the best interest of the province. There are no real guardrails around that, except if they don't like it, then there's a vote provincially 4 years later. Is that enough of a backstop in your mind to put this in place?
So right now, all it says is removal of the council member if it's in the public's interest, but public interest is not defined. I do know that Minister McIver has said something to the effect of public interest can be defined as public push or public request. I still don't know what that looks like. And in an age where recall exists, does it now mean that you can file a recall petition against someone and that becomes the grounds for Cabinet making a move towards removal? It's all unclear. It doesn't mesh together well, and public interest has to be defined very clearly for the public.
Does the idea that the province can repeal or amend, does that in any way influence how the city might make decisions, thinking, hey, you know what, we got to be aware of an appeal or repeal, maybe we need to rethink what we're doing here?
I think the idea that the municipal government no longer has the ability to set forth bylaws that wouldn't be turned over by a provincial government is something that we all need to think carefully about. You have an order of government that's duly elected to represent its citizens, the people that voted for them. And we are making decisions based on expert information, public hearings, all kinds of feedback. And you have another order of government that doesn't have that connection to the people who can overturn things. I think that's absolutely cause for concern.
Do you think, knowing Danielle Smith's opinion about blanket rezoning, that this could be something that could be repealed by the provincial government?
I think it's really important to focus on the fact that we're in the middle of a public hearing right now, one that is quite significant to many, many Calgarians, one that's significant to council. And we have just been advised about legislation that changes the face of municipal government. I think we as a council are incredibly focused right now on doing the right thing for our constituents and for residents of this city. We're in the process of listening to them. We're on day 4 of a public hearing. I wish I could give you more answers about what's being tabled, but I just don't have them.
But are you concerned that they could overrule something that council passes, as was asked?
I have no idea what they can and cannot overturn based on the few words that I've read in what they've put forward to us. So again, there are many, many more questions than there are answers here. And it begs the question of providing local citizens with a government that is here to listen to them through formal and informal processes, and having an order of government that's far removed from them intervening in decisions.
So from what you've heard so far, what problem are they trying to solve here?
Wouldn't it be fantastic if you could actually ask a government, what problem are you trying to solve when they table legislation? And I think that is a great question for this provincial government with this piece of legislation.
Mayor, what you've seen so far, does it make municipal governance better?
From what I can see, there are a few examples where municipal governance definitely can benefit from some of the things that they are doing. Their ability to waive property taxes for non-market housing providers is a great example of something they've done well here, taking the burden of cost off of local taxpayers when it comes to validating a recall petition. Absolutely a great move. I'm very happy about those things, but everything else is pretty nebulous, not a lot of answers around it, and I think it's bordering on overreach in many cases.
Mayor, Minister McIver said that some Albertans have issues with machines counting votes, and that's the basis for eliminating tabulators. Do you have a preference, or do you care whether they're electronically counted or paper ballots?
Frankly, in Calgary, they've been counted by hand for a very long time, and I think it's only the last election where we had tabulators. So, you know, for us, this doesn't really change much. We just go back to what we always did.
But in Calgary's experience, based on one election, they provide quicker results. They're not connected to the internet. The paper ballots remain. Why make a change?
I'm not sure why the government wishes to make a change. It's a very good question for the minister. Thanks.